Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. Dr. Janelle Green Smith was a doctor. She was dissatisfied with the white medical apartheid that killed so many expectant black mothers, so she became a midwife and an advocate for black maternal health.
Hey everyone, my name is Janelle Green and I am a certified nurse midwife. In honor of Black Maternal Health Week, I'd like to share a little bit of my why and what brought me to midwifery care. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in pregnancy and in childbirth than any other race. And hearing these alarming statistics, I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to be a part of the solution and step into a role as the provider that would listen to my patients when they said they were in pain. I wanted to be the provider that would answer the questions and that would go above and beyond to allow my patients to feel comfortable in their journey of pregnancy and in labor. Also, I wanted patients to know that birth is a normal physiologic process and they deserve to know what's going on with their bodies and with their care, and leaving no questions unanswered at any prenatal visit or during labor has always been my number one goal in this role. With that being said, I would like to tell all Black mothers all over the world that I see you, I salute you, I honor you, and your midwife will always support you.
Dr. Green Smith was only too aware of how hospitals target black patients, and particularly black pregnant mothers, to be denied medical care because they know that a stressful pregnancy greatly multiplies the chances that the mother will miscarry, or that she'll die from complications, or that both the mother and the child will die. This is totally predictable and totally preventable. She had gotten married to her husband, Daquan Smith, in 2024. Last summer, she announced that they were expecting their first child. She was expected to deliver the baby on February 25th of this year. But on Christmas Eve, Dr. Green Smith was admitted to the hospital after developing severe preeclampsia, a pregnancy-related blood pressure disorder that can be fatal for a mother and her baby. Upon Dr. Green Smith's admission to the hospital, doctors decided her condition was serious enough to require an emergency C-section. 2 days later, baby Eden was born, early but safe. As for Dr. Green Smith, she seemed to be well initially and was even proudly pumping milk for her baby. But on December 29th, Dr. Green Smith felt a pop, which was the incision breaking open. She began hemorrhaging and was rushed back to the operating room for emergency surgery. According to the white media, the procedure went well, but the complications came during recovery post-surgery, which friends and family of Dr. Green Smith are still trying to get answers for. Dr. Janelle Green Smith died on January 1st, a victim of the exact kind of circumstance she dedicated her career to preventing. She was only 31 years old. The family set up a GoFundMe for her funeral and memorial expenses and essentials for her child, who will now have to grow up without their mother, and the husband who will now spend the rest of his days without his wife and without the mother of his child. Prisma Health, which operates the hospital where Dr. Green Smith died, also owned the practice where Dr. Green Smith worked, but they didn't respond to CNN's request for comments.
The stat that Dr. Green Smith shared at the top: Black women have a maternal mortality rate 3 times that of white women in the United States. And the work that you're doing, and that's according to NIH, is that disparity broadening? Because this is not something we're discussing for the first time.
So I'm going to say that that's a base status, right? So that's your average Black woman, but a educated Black woman has a 5 times as likely to die statistic. So when you understand those numbers, you're like, so how is it the social determinants of health that people keep saying, well, it's social determinants of health? Well, if someone is educated and doesn't live in a food desert and has good insurance and a great job, why is it that they're 5 times as likely to die?
Johns Hopkins published a study a few years ago that found U.S.-born Black women had a higher risk of preeclampsia than Black women in the country who migrated from other countries.
The maternal mortality rate in the U.S. is 18.3 deaths per 100,000 live births, but for Black mothers, that rate skyrockets to 47.4 deaths for every 100,000 live births. With Black mothers, even after they deliver the baby, they're still not safe because in a disproportionate number of cases, the Black mother dies days or weeks after giving birth due to some bizarre, unforeseen complication or other. That's something these white supremacists love to say to describe when they kill a black person. During the days of widespread lynchings, they would claim that the black person in question died at the hands of persons unknown, usually a police officer or sheriff's deputy who everybody knew. When a black person is murdered by some white racist, especially if that racist has a badge, they'll say that the black person died of excited delirium. That's their favorite catch-all phrase to use. When George Floyd was murdered, the very first thing the white authorities and the white media did was to throw out all kinds of lies, starting with he died of excited delirium. Of course, we all know he died of asphyxiation from a racist leaning on his neck for nearly 10 minutes straight. When Elijah McClain was attacked by police and murdered with a fatal overdose of poison, they also dragged out the all-purpose excited delirium lie. That's their favorite go-to when the police kill someone.
After studying excited delirium, the Nobel Peace Prize-winning organization Physicians for Human Rights called it scientifically meaningless and a way to justify aggressive police tactics.
Excited delirium is not a valid medical or psychiatric diagnosis and should not be used as a cause of death.
They're not alone in this opinion. In fact, leading medical organizations like the American Psychiatric Association, World Health Organization, and American Medical Association do not even recognize excited delirium as a condition.
This is what white power does when they want to blame the victim for their own death. And that's just when the thugs in blue try to use some made-up pseudo-medical sounding gibberish to cover up their murders. When it comes to the people in these hospitals, they don't even feel the need to go that far. They just say it was complications and leave it at that. After all, who would you go to determine the actual cause of death? The very racist who killed the patient in the first place. But you want to hear something else infuriating? According to the Centers for Disease Control, more than 80% of pregnancy-related deaths are preventable. The CDC's own website says over 80% of these medical killings could have been prevented. This is a government agency saying this. Now, the CDC site doesn't specifically mention black women or black people on their page at all, but the pictures of the pregnant women featured in the article are black, so you can read between the lines. And as we've seen in video after video, the problem isn't that black mothers aren't getting to the hospital in time. And it's not that they had some sort of bizarre condition that nobody could have foreseen. It's that these racists in these hospitals are deliberately and intentionally denying these black women basic health care because they know what the result will be, that they're knowingly creating a life-threatening situation for these black patients. The American College of Nurse Midwives called the death of Dr. Green Smith heartbreaking and unacceptable. But these are empty words, not just for Dr. Green Smith, but because this isn't new. Black mothers are routinely killed during and even after pregnancy. They even said it in the exact same paragraph where they mentioned that black women are at a far greater risk than any other group due to systemic racism, but they then tack on failures in care. No, when white women die, that's a failure of care because it wasn't intentional. What happens to black women is deliberate, intentional, and was meant to cause death. That's not a failure. It's the system working exactly the way it was designed. And we know it's designed that way because of how consistent it is, and also because no one from these medical boards or the policymakers or even groups like the American College of Nurse Midwives is pushing for there to be a system put in place to keep track of these deaths so that we know which physicians are doing it and what hospitals these deaths are occurring at. You start doing that, and start finding out who's the real culprits here, you start yanking people's medical licenses, start putting people in prison, and suddenly you'll find that the black maternal mortality rate would plummet overnight. The problem isn't that these medical murderers don't know what they're doing. The problem is they know exactly what they're doing. They know that everyone from the white media to these white hospital administrators to the white politicians know what they're doing, and that they're going to protect them. And what kind of individuals are we talking about who show nothing but contempt for black patients?
I have a question, but I'm afraid to ask it because I don't want to be labeled as a racist. Here we go! I've been an ER doctor for 10 years now, and a significant amount of my African American patients, while I'm doing a history and physical to understand better what's going on with their problem today, they have someone on the phone. They're either just talking on the phone or they're on FaceTime, but a large percentage of my African American patients have someone that's there in the room even though they're not there in the room. Why is that? When I, myself, not speaking for an entire race or ethnicity, have a doctor come in, I hang up my phone.
A few moments later.
African American people are currently and have historically been mistreated and endangered by the American medical system. I posed a question to the internet yesterday about an observation that I had made as an emergency medicine doctor that a disproportionate amount of my African American patients were on their cell phones during medical encounters. And I thought I knew the answer, but I asked why. And there were a lot of people that were upset that I would talk about this on social media, and they were upset that I wasn't talking directly to my patients about it to get the answer. And I 100% get that. I should absolutely be doing more in my personal practice, in my immediate environment, to help make the medical environment a safer place for Black people. It was my hope that by making this video, I could reach a lot more people than I can reach in person and address the fact that there are a lot of people who think that it's rude to be on the phone during a medical encounter. But it was my suspicion that this was rooted in very justified mistrust and fear of the medical system. To everyone that I have triggered and offended, I apologize. It is my genuine goal in life to spread positive ripples throughout the world, and it appears I have missed the mark with this.
This is a video that was posted in the last year or two. This guy here calls himself Dr. J. Mack. He has an Instagram account, and of course he's as bigoted as the day is long. Most people in the hospital, including the ER, are on their cell phones. Doesn't matter if they're Black, white, or otherwise. Everybody's got a cell phone and they're usually on it. Many of them are trying to contact their relatives and loved ones to let them know that they're in the hospital. Everybody does it. White, Black, Hispanic, Asian, everyone. And yet this so-called ER doctor, he's only bothered when Black patients do it. Naturally, he's too much of a liar and a racist to admit that he's the reason that these Black patients feel the need to be on the phone, because no one in their right mind would be comfortable or willingly put their lives in the hands of this creep. This guy shouldn't be working in the hospitality industry, much less a hospital. And why the hell does this guy even have the ability to practice medicine? Why does he have a medical license? If he got a license, then that means that there's some sort of medical licensing board that he got it from. And these licensing boards have rules on what their license holders are allowed to do on social media. In fact, according to the Federation of State Medical Boards, what physicians do on social media can lead to them being disciplined, which ranges from a firmly worded letter to revocation of their license. Examples of this kind of behavior include things like using the internet for unprofessional behavior, making derogatory remarks regarding a patient online, and discriminatory language or practices online. Singling out Black patients to make some bigoted blanket statement about, I think that qualifies. But of course, the people who are on these medical licensing boards are usually friends with, if not family members to, trash like this. And of course, they cover for each other, which is why this happens all the time. It's the same reason why whenever these white judges get caught on video, audio, and every other way being racist towards Black people, the Bar Association and these state disciplinary boards never do anything about them either. Meanwhile, these exact same white-run regulatory boards have no problem steadily suspending or otherwise punishing Black doctors, lawyers, judges, any Black person who either might have done something minor that doesn't really warrant penalizing them, or in many cases, they did nothing at all. It's not that these white racist judges haven't broken the rules or even the law, it's that there's a blatant open system of white fiat and white immunity from the law in place, a system administered by other racists who protect these reprobates. This guy is a so-called doctor, and he's in a position to do incalculable, even lethal harm to Black patients. And we have to wonder, has he already harmed someone or worse by now? He knew that he stepped in it when he decided to let his mouth get running, but he showed exactly who and what he is. And that's the reason why afterwards he was pretending to do that pathetic mea culpa. But nobody's going to forget who and what this creep is. But the problem is, what's going to be done about this guy now that he's exposed himself? These degenerates know this society harms Black people, then blames Black people for being harmed. And it rewards those who harm Black people too. Either they get some sort of prize for harming Black people, like money or a promotion, but just as often they're caught dead to rights and white power makes sure that they get transferred so that their dirty reputation doesn't stick to them as much, which is just as bad as giving them some sort of reward outright. It's just like with the thugs in blue. White offenders are less likely to be arrested, less likely to be charged, less likely to get a harsh sentence. I document this in my crime reports. Black defendants, on the other hand, are more likely to be charged, regardless of whether there's evidence or not. They're more likely to be prosecuted and more likely to get the harshest sentence possible. You have white offenders and Black citizens, both of whom encounter the exact same cops, the exact same prosecutors, the exact same judges, and yet what they get charged with, or whether they get prosecuted at all, or what kind of sentence they get, is based on their skin color, not the charges against them. How can you consistently get two opposite outcomes for the exact same participants unless there's an open bias? Again, we catch these racist judges, racist cops, and racist prosecutors, but this society insists on blaming the victims for what the perpetrators do. And they use the exact same MO when it comes to killing black patients. Black patients are less likely to be diagnosed regardless of the severity of their symptoms. They're less likely to get treatment and less likely to live after dealing with this so-called healthcare system. Now, black patients see the same nurses, the same doctors, and the same surgeons as white patients do, and yet the outcomes are totally different for the exact same illnesses. It's not the illness that determines whether you receive healthcare or not, and it's not your condition that determines whether you receive adequate medical treatment. It's your skin color. Full stop. So whether it's law enforcement or hospitals, we see that there's a consistent, deliberate, and intentional program at work to target black people and only black people. And of course, we can't forget the white media. They make it their mission to miseducate the public and to gaslight the black community. The discriminatory and unjust treatment that black patients are constantly subjected to is always characterized by the white media as if it's in doubt, as if they're not sure that this stuff is true, even though they've got the data and they got the facts right in front of them. It's not that they don't know, it's that they know what their job is, to cover for and run interference for these apparatuses of anti-black murder. And these racist doctors and nurses, they know it too. Everybody's in on it, and everybody's aware of it. What's called for here is a political demand for a black bill of medical rights. When some politician calls themselves coming to your town, smiling in your face, this needs to be mentioned. The people who whine about how they don't think reparations is feasible, these are the same people who don't say a peep about this. The same Negroes who try to claim that, oh, well, that's just some unrealistic dream talk about reparations. These people have no demands of white supremacy on any other issue. That's the reason why reparations makes them nervous. They can't claim that the black infant and maternal mortality rates is an overblown figure. None of them can say, but what about white mothers who die? They can't say that. The usual lies and deflections like, that's not going to happen, doesn't wash when you talk about this subject. Reparations shows who the cowards are, and confronting politicians about America's medical apartheid exposes who the liars are. They can't play the usual games that they do with reparations, so they avoid this one altogether. This isn't a demand for money that we're owed. It's also not something they can claim isn't a big problem. So instead, they say nothing. Well, we don't expect any less from liars and losers. But we as the black grassroots must say something. We must make this a regular part of our political discourse. Nobody thinks that this issue is hugely important until it happens to them or one of their loved ones who's caught in the white medical trap. But by then, it's too late. It's time to get proactive. Information is good, it's crucial and vital, but it's not enough. Dr. Janell Green Smith was a doctor. She knew exactly what kind of circumstances that she was in. She knew exactly what she was dealing with. And she still fell prey to this medical murder machine anyway. Even the CDC had to admit that you gotta point the dirty end of the stick at these doctors. This is not a situation where they don't have enough information. It's a matter of they're allowed to go ahead and deny people medical care until you basically have ignored them to death. So that's what they do. They get a sick thrill out of it. Just like the police do, just like these prosecutors do, just like these judges do, just like the white media does. What's called for here is a national database open to the public, one that allows us to see who the fatalities are, who their attending physicians were, the hospitals where these deaths occurred at, or the hospitals where the lack of health care occurred at. Because as already been mentioned, a lot of these black mothers wind up dying days if not weeks after they even deliver the child. When it comes to white women, you don't have just incident after incident after incident where all of a sudden they're just dying days if not weeks afterwards, and it's always some bizarre circumstance, tons of complications. That doesn't happen with white women. And we should not accept anybody trying to gaslight us into thinking, well, there's just something wrong with black patients. Yeah, they don't have access to health care. That's the problem. We owe it to ourselves and black families to make sure that these racist doctors are no longer killing and to make sure that black patients keep living. Good day and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Jack Smith, Isaac, Chaz Bronxon, Deep I 904, and Christopher Smith. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.